All right, welcome to today's math lesson. Today's lesson is going to be a pretty quick lesson, so that should excite most of you. All right, we're going to start by putting the heading on our papers for today's notes. Today's notes should say subtracting fractions from whole numbers. Make sure you put the date on today's notes. Okay. Number one, the first step in subtracting fractions from whole numbers, you're going to borrow from the whole number to get a mixed number. Alright, second step. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because many of you have told me that I go too slow in these notes. When you borrow, make the denominators, which everybody knows is the bottom numbers of the fraction, make the denominators equal. That way you already have same denominators and you can easily subtract. Okay, so then the third step is to actually subtract the numerators, which are the top numbers, of course, because we never subtract the bottom numbers. Subtract the numerators and the denominator stays the same. Always stays the same whenever you add and subtract fractions. And the fourth and final step, you're going to bring down your whole number. I shouldn't say the fourth and final step because there is one last step that you can always possibly do, and that is to reduce. So we're going to add one more step here, sorry about that, and it's just going to say reduce if possible. Because we never want to leave a fraction that can always be reduced into lowest terms. All right, let's do some examples. Okay, let's start with 12 minus 1/5. And notice the way I line this up. I don't put the 1/5 directly underneath the 12 because this is the space for the fraction and this is the space for the whole number. All right? So with this, like my first step says, I'm going to borrow from that whole number to get a mixed number. Okay, borrow from the whole number. I'm taking one whole from 12, so 12 becomes 11. And then my fraction, it says in step number 2, when I borrow, I make the denominators equal. So since this denominator is 5, the fraction that I borrow is going to have a 5 in the bottom. And if I'm borrowing one whole, that means the top and the bottom, the numerator and the denominator, are going to be the same. So I'm going to borrow 5/5. And then I can subtract because both of my denominators are the same. They are both 5. So 5 minus 1 is 4. My denominator stays the same. And step 4 says bring down my whole number. 11 4/5. Let's check. Can I reduce 4/5? Put that into the division ladder. And nothing goes into there. I went through all my divisibility rules. Okay, let's move on to the next example. 8 minus 6/12. And again, notice how I lined these up. I saved space for a fraction here and space for a whole number there. Step number 1, borrow from the whole number to get a mixed number. I'm borrowing from the 8. That becomes a 7. And then What is my new denominator for this problem? That's right, it's 12. So my new fraction on the bottom is going to be 12. And if I'm borrowing a whole, that means my top and bottom numbers are the same. 12 twelfths. And then the first example, it was 5/5. Now I can subtract. 12 minus 6 is 6. My denominator stays the same. Bring down my whole number. Am I done? Nope. That's right, I can reduce. Put that into the division ladder. And 2 can go into both of them. 3 and 6. And 3 can go into both of them for 1 and 2. So here's my fraction as we have learned before. So my new answer is 7 1/2. Don't forget about that whole number. Next example, let's see if you can do this one on your own. So once you're finished writing it, please pause this tape and turn it back on when you're ready to check your work. Minus 5 25ths. Okay, we're back on. Hopefully you've done this problem and you're ready to check your work now. I borrow from the 10, so that becomes a 9. And this new fraction, since my denominator is 25, both my top and bottom numbers are going to be 25. Now I can subtract 25 minus 5, 20. My denominator stays the same, and I bring down that whole number. I can see if I can reduce 20 and 25. I know 2 does not, 3 does not, 5 goes into both of them. And when they're one number apart, I can't do anything more with that. So my new answer is 9 4/5. Once you have completed all of these examples, let your teacher know you are ready for the assignment. And that's all for today's lesson.